Before the flame, the world was governed by the sun and the moon. Daylight was a time of frantic activity. Our ancestors, early hominins like Homo erectus, spent their waking hours in a constant search for sustenance. They foraged for roots, berries, nuts, and scavenged what they could from the kills of larger, more powerful predators. Every rustle in the undergrowth, every shadow that flickered at the edge of their vision, was a potential threat. Life was a relentless cycle of hunger and fear, a desperate race against the setting sun. The world was bigger and they were a small, vulnerable part of it. When dusk began to settle, a deep and profound darkness would blanket the landscape. This was not the gentle dark of a modern city, softened by distant lights, but an absolute primal blackness. The night belonged to the hunters, creatures with eyes that could pierce the gloom and claws that could tear through flesh. For our ancestors, the only defense was to find shelter. They would scramble up trees or retreat into the shallow mouths of caves, huddling together for a sliver of warmth and a sense of shared security. Sleep was fleeting, punctuated by the terrifying roars and growls of saber-toothed cats and giant hyenas roaming just beyond their fragile sanctuary. The cold was another relentless enemy. Without fire, there was no source of artificial warmth. The chill of the night air would seep into their bones, making them stiff and sluggish. During the colder seasons or the ice ages that periodically gripped the planet, survival became even more precarious. In this unlit world, the human experience was severely limited. Fire was not an invention, it was a discovery. For millennia, our ancestors witnessed its power. A jagged bolt of lightning could strike a dry tree, the trunk exploding into a column of searing flame. The sight must have been utterly bewildering. A force from the sky bringing a light brighter than the sun, and a heat that could be felt from a great distance. Volcanic eruptions were another source. The earth would tremble and split open, spewing molten rock and ash. Rivers of glowing lava flowed down mountainsides, incinerating everything. The most common encounter was with wildfires. In dry seasons, the savanna was a tinderbox. A lightning strike, sparks from falling rocks could set off a blaze that raged for days. Early humans saw these fires from miles away, a pillar of smoke by day, a terrifying orange glow at night. Their first instinct was to flee. Fire was a predator, consuming all life without discrimination. But after the flames, something remarkable happened. Roasted tubers could be found just below scorched earth. The charred remains of animals offered an unexpected feast of cooked meat. Curiosity eventually overcame fear. Cautiously, ancestors approached smoldering embers. In these quiet moments, the first seeds of a revolutionary idea were sown. The leap from witnessing fire to controlling it was one of the most significant in human history. It did not happen overnight. It was a long, slow process of trial, error, and courageous innovation. The first step was likely opportunistic. After a wildfire had passed, a brave or curious individual might have picked up a smoldering branch. They would have felt its warmth and seen its light. Instead of letting it die out, they might have had the revolutionary idea to feed it. They would have added small dry twigs, watching as the embers glowed brighter and a small flame flickered back to life. This was the birth of firekeeping. Early humans became tenders of the flame. Fire was a hungry entity that needed constant fuel. A precious burning branch would have been guarded with immense care. It was a treasure, a fragment of the sun. A small group kept the ember glowing, protecting it from rain, protecting it from wind, and carrying it between camps. Carrying fire was a challenge. A burning torch was cumbersome and burned out quickly. Over time they developed methods. Certain fungi, dried moss, could hold embers for hours. They wrapped these in green leaves to carry them safely. They used hollow horns, clay pots as primitive lanterns to shield coals. They were no longer tied to natural blazes. They could establish a hearth wherever they camped. The final and perhaps most difficult step was learning to create fire from scratch. This was a monumental cognitive leap. They struck rocks to create a spark. They were no longer just keepers of the flame, they were its creators. The controlled use of fire fundamentally reshaped the human relationship with the environment, and its most immediate benefit was warmth. In the cold of the night, or the harshness of an ice age winter, a campfire provided a bubble of artificial summer. This consistent source of heat meant that our ancestors could survive in climates that were previously uninhabitable. It allowed them to conserve precious calories that would have otherwise been spent just trying to stay warm, freeing up that energy for growth, brain development, and other activities. The simple comfort of the hearth transformed caves from cold, damp shelters into warm, inviting homes. Beyond warmth, The fire offered an unparalleled form of protection. The night, once the domain of fearsome predators, was now held at bay by a flickering wall of light and heat. Most animals have an innate fear of fire. The crackling sound, the unfamiliar light, and the billowing smoke were powerful deterrents. A well-tended campfire created a circle of safety, a sanctuary where the group could rest without the constant fear of attack. This newfound security was revolutionary. It allowed for deeper, more restorative sleep, which is crucial for cognitive function and physical recovery. The night was no longer a time of terror but a time of peace. The light of the fire also extended the day. Before, human activity ceased with the setting of the sun, but with a campfire the darkness could be pushed back, creating several extra hours of usable time. This was a monumental shift. It allowed for work to continue after dusk. The fire became a second sun, one that they controlled completely. This circle of light and warmth also had a profound psychological impact. Perhaps the most profound transformation brought by fire was the invention of cooking. Before fire, our ancestors' diet was limited to what they could chew and digest raw. This meant tough, fibrous plants, sinewy raw meat, and hard-to-crack nuts. The act of eating was a time-consuming and energy-intensive process. Cooking changed everything. Applying heat to food is a form of pre-digestion. It breaks down tough cellulose in plants and complex proteins in meat, making them softer and easier to chew and digest. A cooked piece of meat or a roasted root vegetable could be consumed much more quickly and with less effort. This simple act unlocked a huge surplus of calories and nutrients that were previously inaccessible. Foods that were once inedible, like certain tubers and grains, became staple parts of the human diet. Suddenly, the world was full of more food. This nutritional revolution had dramatic consequences for our own evolution. With less need for powerful chewing muscles and massive jaws, our anatomy began to change. Faces became flatter, and teeth became smaller. More importantly, the energy saved from digestion could be redirected elsewhere. Scientists believe that this surplus energy was a critical factor in the development of our most energy-hungry organ, the brain. The human brain consumes about 20% of our body's energy at rest. Furthermore, cooking made food safer. The heat of the fire killed harmful bacteria, parasites, and other pathogens present in raw meat and decaying carcasses. This would have dramatically reduced the incidence of foodborne illnesses and disease, leading to lower mortality rates and longer lifespans. The ability to preserve food by smoking or drying also provided a buffer against times of scarcity. Food could be stored for later use, ensuring a more stable and reliable food supply for the entire group. The kitchen, born around the Stone Age campfire, was a laboratory for human advancement. The mastery of fire was not just about comfort and cooking, it was a catalyst for technological innovation. The light from the campfire let ancestors work at night, effectively doubling their crafting time. In a warm, well-lit cave, they could meticulously shape stone tools, repair wooden spears, and process animal hides. This extended workday brought focus and precision impossible in fading dusk. The fire became a workshop lamp, lighting the path to more sophisticated technologies essential for survival. Fire also became a tool used to shape other materials. Early humans learned to harden wooden spear tips by carefully charring them in embers. This fire hardening made wood more durable, and produced much sharper, more lethal points than carving. Fire-hardened spears were far more effective, able to bring down larger, dangerous game. That innovation improved hunting success and expanded the animals they could pursue. Fire heat also helped tool-making. Heating stones like flint or chert made them easier to shape. Heat treatment alters the rock's structure, allowing controlled, predictable flaking. A napper with heat-treated stone could make longer, thinner, and sharper blades with greater precision. That led to refined tools, from delicate arrowheads to fine-edged knives, a big leap in Stone Age tech. Beyond tools, fire managed landscapes. Early humans used controlled burns to clear undergrowth. It promoted desirable food plants and fungi after a fire. It created open grasslands and clearings, attracting grazing deer and bison, making them easier to hunt. This landscape work shows sophisticated environmental understanding. They weren't just living in nature, they were shaping it, using fire as their ecological engineering tool. The campfire was more than a source of physical warmth, it was the crucible of human society. As darkness fell, the members of the clan would gather around its flickering light. This nightly ritual created a powerful social magnet, drawing individuals together into a single, cohesive unit. The fire provided a shared space for interaction, a central point around which the life of the community revolved. This shared time around the fire was essential for communication and the transmission of knowledge. With the day's work of hunting and gathering done, the elders of the group could share their wisdom with the younger generation. They could tell stories of past hunts, demonstrate how to make a tool, or explain the properties of different plants. This was the world's first classroom. It was here that culture was passed down, not through writing but through spoken word, demonstration, and shared experience. The firelight provided the perfect setting for the development of language and the complex thought that accompanies it. The campfire also encouraged cooperation and the division of labor. Some individuals would be responsible for gathering firewood, others for tending the flames, and others still for preparing the food to be cooked. These shared tasks reinforced mutual dependency and strengthened the bonds within the group. The act of sharing a cooked meal, a behavior that is deeply ingrained in human culture to this day, likely began around these ancient fires. Sharing food fostered a sense of fairness, reciprocity, and collective responsibility, which are the cornerstones of a functioning society. Ultimately, the fire helped to forge our very humanity. The safety and leisure time it afforded may have given rise to the first forms of art and music. People might have sung songs, chanted stories, or even painted on the cave walls, their work illuminated by the dancing flames. In the quiet moments of reflection by the fire, our ancestors may have begun to ponder the bigger questions about their world, the stars above, and their place in the universe. The control of fire was the key that unlocked the planet for our species. Before its mastery, human populations were largely confined to the warm, temperate climates of Africa. The cold of the north and the harshness of seasonal changes presented insurmountable barriers, but armed with the portable warmth of a campfire, our ancestors could venture into new and colder territories. Fire acted as a personal, portable climate, allowing small bands of hunter-gatherers to survive the frigid winters of Europe and Asia. It was the essential survival tool that made the great human migrations out of Africa possible. As groups moved into new environments, fire helped them adapt to unfamiliar ecosystems. The ability to shape the landscape with fire also played a crucial role in this expansion. They were not just passing through the world, they were actively terraforming it on a small scale, creating a more human-friendly environment as they spread across the continents. This global expansion, fueled by fire, set the stage for the future of humanity. It led to the populating of every continent except Antarctica, and resulted in the incredible diversity of human cultures we see today. The discovery and control of fire was not merely one important event among many, it was arguably the single most important moment in the story of human evolution. It was the spark that ignited the long chain of innovations leading to modern civilization. Stone Age campfire, blacksmith's forge, steam engine furnace, modern gas stove. Without fire, our ancestors would have remained a marginal, vulnerable species, confined to the warmer parts of the globe, living at the mercy of predators and the elements. Fire gave us the power to defy the natural cycles of day, night, warmth, and cold, and to begin to shape the world to our will. The legacy of that first tamed ember is woven into the very fabric of our existence. Every meal we cook is a distant echo of the first roasted tuber. Every centrally heated home is a descendant of the first campfire that held the darkness at bay. The energy that powers our modern world is all based on the same fundamental principles of fire. We have scaled the process up immensely, but the core concept remains the same. We still gather around sources of light and warmth to share stories, meals, and companionship. We are reenacting an ancient ritual that has defined human community for hundreds of thousands of years. It is the force that separated us from the rest of the animal kingdom and set us on the path to becoming who we are today. The story of humanity is, in many ways, a story that was written in fire.